Hey, so welcome to another What Is It podcast.
What is it? Come and see here at Manna University.
Hi guys, it's been about a month and we are back with another What Is It podcast. We are Manna University and we are going to talk all about educate, equip, and empower and have a little fun while we're doing it. You know that every single month I have a new guest host. And so this month I have who is actually one of my good friends as well, Stefanie Ertel. And so we're going to have conversation. She's now doing a new position. So Stefanie, you are Manna University's executive. I got to look at this because it's kind of like a lot of words, you know. You're Manna University's executive director of academics. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got to this place.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me, Dee.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I started coming back I went to Grace College of Divinity way back. I started as a dual enrolled student at 16 years old. So I took classes, dual enrolled, and then continued on, received my associates and my bachelor's. And during that time, I did some work study here as a somewhat staff member, but work study. And then after I graduated, after that, I got married and then took a little break. But then I came on officially on staff in January 2012 as the director of online learning. Okay. And so there was, back in 2012, we had online classes, but we also had DVDs and that we would send out and receive. And
some of y'all don't know what DVDs are. It's okay.
So then after that, I actually began my master's degree and then transitioned into dean of students. I was doing that, began teaching a little bit after that, mostly online, a little bit on campus. And then I became the dean of distance education. Ooh. So there's Populi and everything in there, working with faculty, different things like that. And then I also, sometime in there, actually brought on brand director, so oversaw the creative team for a little short time. Yep. And then transitioned out of brand director into executive director of learning management. I was there for only about a year, and then executive director of academics this last April.
So you have you know how we have one downstairs for Manna University that shows like our timeline of everything. Like I feel like you need a timeline. Yeah. Because literally you've been a part of this thing since you were a teenager. Yeah. And so you've seen so much transition in your life in the midst of the transition that you've seen for Manna University. You got married in the midst of that. You had children in the midst of that, 3 of them. So like you've seen so much happen in the midst of that. And so I think that's really cool. One of the reasons why we asked you on, because of your new position, yes, but also because of all of the history that you specifically have with Manna University. Once upon a time, GCD, once upon a time. There's a lot of names that come before GCD, by the way. So,
and you're right. You know, I took classes with my husband before we were married.
Look at that.
We met at youth group at Manna.
Maybe your husband, ladies, is at Manna University. I'm just joking. Don't take me serious.
We met at youth group, but then we came to Manna University. But then, I finished, had kids, went back to school, then had kids, then continued on here and.
It's a lot. All right, well, now that we know all of Manna University's history via Stefanie, let's jump into our question. So the first segment is all about educate. So what does all of that, all the things that you just said, what does that mean in the context of educate at Manna University? Because that was a lot.
Yeah, so a lot involved with that. And, educate, we are a people and place of learning. So I think just having that continuous mindset of learning, continuous mindset of, there's so much more to leadership. There's so much more to academics than books. And
well, that's a good statement.
and being more aware of culture, motivation, leading teams, coaching, all of these different things are really going into how we help create an environment of a people and a place of learning as we educate students and current and future leaders.
That's awesome. I love what you said when you said it's more than just books, because I think when people think about education in general, right, we have this general idea of like education is just going to school and reading books and writing papers and learning. And though all of those things are true and all of those things are relevant, they're not everything, at least at Manna University, right? There's so much more that goes into the idea of the education, educating our students. And so I love that you said that, because it gives them a little bit of glimpse into the fullness of educate, not just those things about educate that we don't particularly care for.
I think you have to be careful. You don't want to swing too far either way, though, because on one hand, educate isn't just encapsulated by what we read. It isn't just encapsulated by the books. But we should still read. We should still learn from those books. There's reasons that we have textbooks in classes. And then on the other end, we don't want to swing so far and be like, oh, we don't need to read. We just need to get experience and learn through that way. And the thing is, there's so much depth in both. And so even learning from people that have experience is in areas that you're wanting to go into, learning from pastors, from teachers, from counselors, that are the professors, that are the faculty members, and you'll be able to learn through your experiences as well. So I think you don't want to swing too far either way, because we still need both.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always more impressed by the people who have what we call the book smarts and the street smarts, because they have an ability to have both knowledge and intelligence and emotional intelligence, because you have a good collective of both, right? Like, I'm not just book smart or I'm not just street smart. When you have a good combination of them both, it makes a person a little bit more well-rounded. So I love that. Okay, so with that then, you taught at one point, because you were my teacher at one point. Yeah. Look at that. Like, that's crazy, right? Okay. So you taught some courses in Christian leadership. Yeah. Tell the listeners how their academics can help them in leadership.
Yeah. So as you're looking at leadership, as you're looking at a lot of the other areas as well, theology and all of these things, it's going to help you give you the tools to take that next step. Yeah. Learning about different leadership theories, learning about, like I said earlier, motivation and culture, these different things are going to help give you the tools to be able to step into roles and give you an awareness of things that you may not know that are going on at that time. Yeah. There's so many levels to leadership. It's not, we are all called to be leaders. At the same time, there's so much depth to leadership and the things that you say, the things that you do, what it connects, what are you saying through your actions, what are you modeling? And I think being able to open up even your knowledge in those areas that are going to help you understand the whole depth of what God has called you to as a leader. Yeah,
that's really good. The entirety. I think that's probably one of my favorite things about the fact that I was a student at Manna University, also about to become one again, is that there's depth. There's not just the surface level of things. There's a deeper dive. And so thinking about leadership specifically, how much of my education was shaped, because when you were my teacher, my degree was Christian leadership. So I had a lot of courses of yours, and at the time, that was the focus. And it was like, man, like, there's so many different things about leadership that matter that I think that we can miss if we just focus on, okay, well, what is it like to be a leader? It's more than that. It's leadership is, would you agree, leadership is also your everyday, the things that you do at home that no one sees, or the things that you do with your friends that even the behind the scenes, behind the closed door stuff matters.
100%. I think of the example that we set with our families and with our kids and the things that we're doing at home. Are we being diligent? Are we being persistent? Are we, cleaning up after ourselves? Just simple things like that. Where if you're not going to do it at home, if you're not going to have that lifestyle of it, what makes you think when you go out into the workforce, when you go out and interact with other people, that you're going to be all of a sudden organized, all of a sudden, focused? And so we need to, in the everyday, think about what is my focus, what are my priorities, what am I modeling to my kids, and behind closed doors, am I pursuing God in the way that I would want others to see? Not we don't do it for others, but at the same time we do it to pursue God. But at the same time, if we're leading others to pursue God and His presence, I think it's kind of hypocritical if we're not doing that ourselves.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to shift into the next segment, which is equip. So academics are not just for the benefit of educating, but also equipping. So what does that look like for you in this new role?
Yeah, so really looking at equip and the core of what it is. Of we serve the local church. We don't just deliver information, but we make room for application and inspiration. So looking at the different components of that and how that's really applicable. How are we serving the local church? How are we developing leaders and equipping them to step into what they have within the local church, within the callings that they have? And so we're going to be looking at, academics. We're looking at the content in the courses. Are they practical? Are they equipping these leaders as they're stepping into what God has for them? I think about, even just creativity within the courses. Like, okay, are we having assignments just to have assignments? Because we shouldn't.
That's good.
We shouldn't have assignments just to check off the box.
That's good.
So having things that we're looking at and looking at it through a lens of how is this serving the body? How is this serving the local church? And as we are equipping these students to step into that, it takes academics to look at what are in the courses, what's the goal, what's the purpose, what's the focus of this course, and what's the end for the student. What do we want them to be doing as they finish this course, they finish this program, whatever it is, and then go into that next step.
That's so neat. Like there's those things that you don't think about when you are, even for me, I work at Manna University, but I've never thought about academics in that way. I've only ever thought about it in the idea of what that meant for me as a student, what it means for me as the advancement director. Not as much, but what that means for me in that context. You just gave me a whole new vision and idea of what that looks like and how we use academics to equip on the back end, the things that our students, that our listeners, they never know because they're only looking at academics in the context of how does this apply to me? How does this apply to my degree? So it's really good. Okay, so how have you personally been equipped? So we're gonna shift this from focused on our students and our listeners to a little bit more you focused, right? How have you been personally equipped by Manna University to do this new position as the executive director of academics?
Yeah, so even within that phrase, I said we make room for application and inspiration. And I think of the leaders that have helped equip me for what I'm doing now. And I think of those people like leaders here at Manna University, like Dr. Crowther, like Dr. Serrano, like Chaplain McBride. I think of other people along ABHE and other universities where I received my master's degree, like Dr. Patterson and Dr. Gomez and Dr. Drabick at another ABHE university. And I think about these leaders that have helped equip me to step into what I'm doing now. And, I began teaching in 2014. And I assisted helping create the Christian leadership program, and starting then, but even then, just being able to to learn through coaching and giving me roles that I'm able to grow into as well.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
that was early on, being able to go alongside the president at that time and really be able to invest into the Christian leadership program. But thinking about as more and more roles and more things that they've been able to, that I've been able to step into has been through the coaching and the mentoring.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love shouting people out. So shout out to all those people that she just named. It was a list of them. But shout out to all of you guys, because you guys made a difference in her life and equipping her to grow, to do what she's doing now, which then is going to equip others, our students as they come in, our people who also work with you in faculty. So I love to think about how you think about how everything that we do echoes in eternity. For those people who you just named, the things that they did to equip you is going to echo, because you now are doing things to equip. And then those people that you equip are going to go off and do things. And it's a beautiful cycle that I think is, that we don't often get to really take a pan view of what that looks like as a whole. We only look tunnel vision of how things affect us. Sorry, I was listening to a podcast this morning and they were talking about like the effects of the generation. They were talking about some things that are in the Bible about how important generations are. I think that's relevant even in this context, not just in the context of our family and our children. It talks about how it affects you 10 generations. I think that's also effective in this context as well.
Definitely.
It's good. Okay. So we're going to jump into our last segment, which everybody knows is my favorite. And that's empower. I do want to, before I go any further, I do want to, I feel like I should have probably led with this, but Stefanie just so happens to be married to Nick Ertel. I don't know if you watch Manna Church's podcast. It's the Morning Manna podcast. He actually is the host of that podcast. He's also the brother God gave me, I never asked for. And so I feel like I should shout out Manna Church's podcast, not Nick. Manna Church's podcast. Let's be clear. We're not shouting out Nick.
What about if I shout out Nick?
You
I shout out.
Okay,
Nick.
She's shouting out Nick. I'm shouting out Manna Church's Morning Manna podcast. No, but honestly, we've both been guests on that podcast. It's a really good podcast. So if you haven't had an opportunity to check out Morning Manna's podcast, you should, because it's all joking aside, Nick is Nick. We love you, Nick. I had to do it because, he talks really crazy about me, so why not? Okay, let's jump into, I feel empowered to talk about Nick, and so we're going to talk about empowerment.
Yep.
Okay. How do you believe academics can be a tool for empowering students in today's world specifically?
Yeah, so we can be part of empowering leaders through educating and equipping them to be leaders that are theologically sound, to be leaders that are thoughtful and transformed. We don't just develop leaders, but we're also in this process, but through this process of information, application, inspiration guided by the Spirit, that is preparing leaders to be deployed. So we develop and deploy leaders.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think that's, first of all, for those of you who don't know, we're in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and so we use a lot of military terms because we serve the military space. We have a lot of, shout out to all the soldiers who are students at Manna University, who have family members who are students who are at Manna University. And so shout out to you. You hear deploy and you think deploy, like some people don't realize that deploy can be used in other aspects other than military. So, but you're right, like it's more than just what we do in the moment of, but what you can be deployed into. I think that's really good. Okay. And then how did academics empower you to walk into this new role that you were in? Because this is a relatively big role. I mean, at least in my opinion, in my humble opinion, that absolutely nobody asked me for. This is a really big role, and it doesn't change that you still do some other things within Manna University as well. So how do you feel like academics in itself has empowered you to now walk in this new role specifically?
Yeah, so before I stepped into this role, I did work with the academic team, with academics. But I think as stepping into this role, I think of how I think they believed more in me than I believed in myself. And not that I thought like, oh, I'm lowly and all of this. Right. I was in a position that I felt I was doing well in, but I think that there's that next level, right? They're in the leadership here. They saw more, they saw past than some things that I thought, oh, well, I don't think that's the position that I'm going to. Yeah. But they were able to empower me and say, hey, this is the new role, and we believe in you, and this is how we're going to help you succeed. And so I think that's really the key there is they are leadership is in a position that's helping me succeed with the tasks and the different things that I have to do, but also looking at the strengths that I do have and being able to really press into those areas. And I think that's great when you have team members and you're able to adjust to their strengths, but also weaknesses, and be able to put together a team, a solid team, so that we can really focus on those strengths, but also be able to work with the team in the area that's needed. Yeah, no, that's so good. And I think that when you look at the fullness of what you're doing now and everything that took for you, I mean, we can go as far back as 16 years old when you were doing dual enrollment, and all of that played a role into the empowerment of you getting to this. I love though when you said, believing more in me than I believe in myself, and pointing out that doesn't mean that I don't think that I can, but there are times when we think that we can, and even still it feels like it may be too much. Like, have you ever been could it be one of those things where I feel like I can, but it still feels like I don't know that I can for sure? Does that make sense? Yeah, so looking at it, it wasn't something that I expected at all. It surprised me, to be honest. But
good surprise?
Yeah, it was a great surprise. But there were components that I was like, oh, I don't know how to do that. And, being able to figure out, okay, what are the things that, well, one, I just need to figure out how to do, and what are the things that it's like, okay, we're going to come alongside you, or this is going to be changed, or this is going to work out this way or that way. And I think still figuring all of those things out.
For sure. Yeah. I love that. So we're talking about empowerment in the context of the jobs that we do, but that equates to even how we empower our students in many ways.
Definitely.
So I feel like I was empowered to do this job, which is crazy because this is not even close to anything that I thought I was going to be doing. But God knows more than I do, so he saw fit, here I am, right? But it was the leadership here that was very clear, like, we believe that you can. I think and we're talking about the same kind of leadership that is the leaders of our students, the teachers and the faculty and the staff. And so do you feel like we shift that empowerment level, that same empowerment level that we feel as staff members? Do you feel like we do a good job of shifting that to our students as well?
I think I hope and I pray that we are able to empower students, every staff member, every faculty member, through academics, but also through our interactions and through the mentoring that will happen, through the coaching that will happen. And I think too, the more the student is willing to be vulnerable with a faculty member, the more we're able to even see within the context of how this is helping or hindering. And I think that there's a lot of room in our classes for practical application, a lot of room for development, for spiritual development, for spiritual formation. And there's so much opportunity here for empowerment through interactions. And, I think of the stories from students about the things that they tell me that, this one class was life-changing, and because of that, it made this mind shift. It shifted my orientation on how I step into leadership, on how I even pray, on how I pursue God. And I think those are the things that we're going to see that really do take a huge step into empowerment, because that's developing and deploying that leader into the next step of their life.
Yeah, that's good. As I heard you talking, I want to take a minute to shout out somebody who I get to hear regularly empowering our students, and that's Cherish Thompson.
Definitely.
She is a big part of our enrollment team, and so she's the person that you usually talk to when you're enrolled in Manna U and you're getting ready to start signing up for courses, and she can be extremely empowering and helping them walk through. I've heard her encourage people who are nervous about going back to school for the first time. I've heard her encourage people in taking the right classes for their degree plan, or even talking to them about, okay, you don't even sound like this is the degree plan you want. Maybe we need to shift. And so I really love that the empowerment that we have as a staff and as a faculty transitions over into our students, and we see that in people, all of our staff members. But Cherish is one I get to hear do it regularly because she's always on the phone with them. So
I also, think with Cherish, even though she's not technically on the academic team, there's a lot of communication between us and her, just because we want to serve the student the best that we can. And so we get to serve our students. And so because of that, we're Cherish, myself, we're talking continue all the time about how we can help this student, how we can help that student, and really being able to connect those dots through the different offices per se.
Yeah, that's good. All right, well, we are just about done. We always have a bonus question that you don't get ahead of time, and it's a fun one. So your bonus question is, if you could step into any Bible story for a day, which one would you choose and why?
Step into any Bible story, like as a viewer?
However you see fit. So as a viewer or as the person, the lead role, I don't know, however you see fit.
I feel like, I don't know if this is a cop-out answer, but I feel like just, the resurrection of Jesus. I know that might be like, okay, I just think of that. I think of, we are saved because he got back up.
Because he got back up.
So I just think about being able to see him as the resurrected Christ.
That's good. Yeah, I always think about what I would be like as a disciple. Because you look at the disciples and you think, I wonder how I would have handled that. You know what I mean? Of course, they didn't have the Bible. They didn't have the full context of the Bible like we have, so they don't know as much as we know now. But I always think like...
I also think of Mary when Jesus first came back. To be that person that first sees Jesus. And to think about the culture within that time where women weren't treated very well, but she was chosen to be that first one that saw him, and just to be able to be in that experience.
It's pretty epic.
And extremely humbling, and just the amount of love, too, that she's just experiencing and be able to see.
I wonder if she even thought about it like that. I feel like she was probably so overwhelmed with joy that she probably didn't even consider, like, I'm getting to be the one. As a woman, as a female, I'm getting to be the one. It probably didn't even cross her mind because she was just so overjoyed with his presence.
Yep. Doesn't hit her until the disciples don't believe her.
Right. That's probably when it It happens. Anyway, this has been great. Thank you so much for being willing to come on to our podcast. I feel like now at some point I'm gonna have to invite Nick, especially since I talked about him a little bit. So it's fun. But thank you. We appreciate it. Congratulations on your new role.
Thank you.
We are so super excited to see all that you're going to do and how that's going to educate, equip, and empower our students. For all of you, thank you so much for joining. Subscribe, like, share, follow wherever you consume this content. We are on the YouTube. We are on the Apple Podcast. And we are on the Spotify. We appreciate you. Until next time, bye.
What is it? Come and see. Here are many